Hey there everyone, welcome back to GameVine, and my name is David, and today we're going to continue to discuss the game of Dice Masters. And if you do not know how to play, this is not the video you want to watch first. I did make a how-to play video if you want to go check that out first. Today we're just going to be discussing the very first base set, which is the Avengers versus X-Men. And as you can see, I have a bunch of cards and dice in front of me, and that's what this set consists of. There is a starter set that comes with 24 characters and all the setup that you need, your sidekicks and the basic action cards. I don't have the box because I cut it up and it comes in a really small box that you can't put them back into anyway. I'll put it right here. And after you have the starter set, you can go out and buy 99-cent packs that have 2 cards and 2 dice in them from a gravity feed, and you can start to build up your personal deck. And Dice Masters, as I mentioned before, is a collectible card game and or dice game, kind of like Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon, in the same vein as those, where you'll collect cards and build up your own personal deck so you can take it into a 20-minute bout against your friends and or opponents. And I am an avid collectible card game and or living card game player. And this was a nice new twist for me because it's not just cards, and I love dice, so you put the two together, I mean, it should be a win, right? But I haven't really stuck with a collectible card game since the days of Magic, but this one, if you watched the last video, you know that I like this one a lot, and there are tons of reasons why. So without further ado, again, I'm not going to show you how to play Dice Masters, I'm just going to show you what I have collected in this first base set. So let's get to it, everyone. Let's check out this first set of Dice Masters, Avengers versus the X-Men. Alright, this is going to be different than the contents that I reveal in other videos because it is a collectible card game, and I've mixed a lot of my sets up. But this, again, is just the first base set of Avengers versus X-Men. You will start by getting your starter pack, which comes with 24 different character cards and everything that you need, and 2 of each character dice that you can have. Now remember, if you watched the last video, these cards normally have 3 different versions of themselves. Sometimes they'll have a super rare and they'll have 4 different versions. And each one will do something different. One might be cheaper, one might have a better ability, but they have different rares. This is a rare with a yellow line, this is an uncommon with green line, and the grays are commons, and then the super rares are the red ones. Though it doesn't matter too much because this is just where the collectability comes into this game, is trying to chase the rares, because sometimes the commons will have pretty good effects and can rival some of the super rares. And they of course come with their dice, and you can have a certain number of dice for each one, though all the dice are going to be the same. So the rare ones that you get are going to come with the same dice. So if you get a whole bunch of rare ones and a whole bunch of the common ones, and you finally get the rare one that you like, you can add all the past dice that you have to maximize his play. And the other things that you'll get in the starter set are the basic action dice, and they'll come in 4 different colors, and they'll have their corresponding colored cards as well, because you'll be putting those basic actions on those. And then it'll have the list of what the set consists of, so you can kind of check those off as you get them. And then the air sickness bags that comes with a red and a blue one. I'm sorry, I mean 16 actual psychic dice. There aren't that many here, but if you buy a starter set, you can start playing right away if you have another person to play with. And then you'll get the 10 basic action cards. You'll get to choose 2 every time you play a game, so this gives it some variety. Let's go over some of the basic action cards now. Take cover. This your character gets +2 defense. One character gets an extra +3 defense if you get the asterisk, and it has a global ability as well. Then you have inner rage. 2 of your target characters get +1 attack and +1 defense to the end of turn, and asterisk bumps that up even more. Focus power. Spend 1 target a character up or down 1 level, and then the asterisk lets you do a little more on that front. Gearing up, draw 2 dice from your bag and roll them. Place them in the reserve pile. So this is how you can get a lot of dice rolling without having to pull them from your prep area. This is another one they have, throw car. You can see this is kind of not my favorite art on the cards, but there are a lot of good artworks on the cards as well. But this one here does 2 of your target characters get +1 attack while attacking. Damage those 2 characters deal in the excess of the total defense of blocking characters is dealt to your opponent. So you can block a big character with a sidekick, and all of that damage is going to be negated and just put onto that sidekick, so you won't get damaged. But this one, throw cards, kind of has a trample effect that Magic likes to call, and gives the excess damage to the opponent, which I like a lot. In the last few that we have here, this is really good art. You have Galactus in the back. Distraction. Your opponent targets 2 of his or her characters. Those characters cannot block this turn, and it also has a global as well. Force Beam, this is pretty cool artwork. You have the Iron Peoples doing their thing. Deal 1 damage to each character, and as the asterisk always does, it'll bump up that ability. Another Hulk basic action card, Smash, and knock out a target level 1 character, and the asterisk does more, and it has another global on it. And Power Belt, I kind of like this one, though I'm not a big Cyclops fan. Deal 2 damage to 1 character or player. Now, it's not the strongest, I just like the art on that. The last one that we have here is Invulnerability. Your attacking characters that are knocked out this turn return to the battlefield, and you also can have a global as well. This is probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite, within the set. So those are the basic action cards and everything that comes within the set. Now let's go over some of the dice and or the characters and what they do. So this is what the starter set would look like as a whole. If you bought a gravity feed and the starter deck, you would roughly have what I have in front of me, a few stacks of cards and a rainbow plethora of dice. Now I would say the AvX set here is perfect to start off the game of Dice Masters for you or for a friend. Doesn't have that many abilities that bend and break the rules. It just allows you to get your teeth and sink them into this game and learn it and have a little something to have a longevity of play, which is one of the strengths of Dice Masters. It's so customizable. You can play the same deck with the same characters with different card abilities and have a different experience. So within the set there are a few different affiliations. I'm going to go through each one in order. The first ones that we have are of course the X-Men and the Avengers, but the Fantastic Four as well makes an appearance. There are villains in here as well. There are a few equipment cards that I'll get into in a second. And lastly, there are cards that have no affiliation at all. So the first ones I'm going to go into are the easiest, because there are only 3 different characters of that affiliation, and that is the Fantastic Four. So let me show you their cards right now. And the first Fantastic Four member that I'm going to put up here is Mr. Fantastic. I only have 1 of his cards, but I have multiple of his dice because I've gotten this one a few times. Mr. Fantastic gets 2 attack and 2 defense while blocking. He also has a global ability. His highest attack is 2, but he has a great defense at 7 on his final level. And his dice aren't my favorite, but they suit him pretty well, and they got a good design to them. So that is Mr. Fantastic and all the cards that I have. The next person I have here is the Thing. Notice some will be in sleeves and some won't be. There's no reason for that really. And of course the Thing is a really strong character with his highest level being 8 attack and 6 defense, but it costs 3 to bring out, and then it's anything else in between here. The first one here is Ever-Loving Blue-Eyed. At the start of an attack step, if your opponent has more fielded characters than you, Thing cannot be blocked and takes no damage while blocking. That is pretty cool. The next thing that we have here for him is Idol of Millions. When fielded, if an opponent has more fielded characters than you, draw and roll 3 dice. So he likes when you have a whole bunch of weenies out, and his dice is pretty cool. They really did capture his face on that, so I like the Thing there. The next one we have here is the Human Torch, and he comes in the starter set, so I'm not going to go over all these cards, though his is 4 and 4 at his top level. The one that I'll go over here, while the Human Torch is active, each time you field a character, Human Torch deals 1 damage to your opponent and 1 to the target character. So he's just spitting fireballs at people, and they do other things as well with the other cards. We'll go over the titles. You have Playing with Fire, Matchstick, and Flame Oil. And his dice I really like. I kind of like these translucent dice. Some people don't, though I think this is one of the cooler ones in the set. So those are all the Fantastic Four characters in the game. There is no Invisible Woman. I haven't really seen her in the set yet. No spoilers, I'm sorry about that. But now let's move on to the X-Men. And the first one that we have here is Gambit. He's probably my favorite X-Men at this point, but this is a really cool card, and this is the only one that I have of Gambit, though again, I have a whole bunch of his dice. When fielded, you may draw and roll 1 dice. Place it in your reserve pool. If you get the burst, you get to draw 2 instead. This card, I love this Gambit. I don't know what the other ones do, but I'm pretty sure it has the same vein of drawing dice. And his dice are really cool. I like the pink on brown, and his top level is a 4/4 with 2 costs to bring out. So Gambit is really nice. Now let's go on to Phoenix. And Phoenix is extremely powerful. She is an 8/8, though she does cost 3 to bring out, and the lowest cost is 1, and she's a 5/5. Sorry about the sleeve blocking it there. But this is the uncommon one. When Phoenix is engaged, you may spend 2 lightning bolts to deal 4 damage to a target character or opponent. And she also has a global. This one is the red. And this one gets a little cheaper, her uncommon card, though it's still a 6. And it has, if she's engaged, she gains +2 attack and defense. And her dice are pretty cool. It's kind of got a pearl essence kind of feel to it, and the green is really nice. So that is Phoenix. Now let's go on to the next person. So why not go with Cyclops next? And he is a decent character when it comes to fighting. He's only a 1 cost on his last level, and it's a 6/4. But his real killer are his abilities. Though he is a really costly one for his uncommon, but it does get cheaper for his common version. Again, I'm only going to show you the cards I've got. I don't have the rare of Cyclops. And his dice are okay. I mean, it's not the best one, but they're decent. So let's go over to the next X-Men, and this is Wolverine. And everybody's favorite, really. And I like Wolverine. He's pretty cool, and he is one of the super rares that are in the game, though I don't have him, and it's Knucklehead. But he is pretty strong. Though he cost a lot for an 8/4. I wish his defense was a little stronger. And the only one that I have here is when Wolverine attacks alone, you may spend 1 opponent character down 1 level, so you can make him weak. But he's pretty cheap considering he's 5, and his dice are pretty cool as well. They went with a yellow and blue. The next thing that we have here is Rogue, and she is a really cool character. Again, Rogue is a stronger character, though her power doesn't really translate as much as I think it should. Anna Marie, when fielded, capture an opposing action dice from the use pile or reserve pool. When Rogue attacks, you may use that action for free with no burst. Return it to the use pile after the attack step. So this is where controlling characters and controlling other people's basic dice comes into play, and that it really adds a cool twist to the game, because again, it's in Magic and in Hearthstone, and why not bring it into Dice Master, because it works really well. These kind of look like the Wolverine dice, but they have a big R on them. So that is Rogue. The next one up we have is Professor X, and I have a few of his. I have all 3 of his cards. We're not going to go over all of them, but we'll go over a few. He is pretty cheap with the middle one, though 6 does get kind of hefty in the game as you go on, but you can get it eventually. His power isn't really strong. It's only 1 attack on its final level, but the defense is spectacular, being at 9. This one here, the rare one, Charles Francis Xavier. While Professor X is active, your opponents cannot field characters. He or she can play 2 life to prevent this effect for the rest of the turn. So they have to continue to pay life, because in theme he is controlling them, which is pretty cool. And that's kind of how Professor X works. And his dice are, they're neat. They're kind of hard to pick up because the blue on gray isn't the best choice. But that is Professor X. We are almost done with the X-Men. Let's go over, this is another one of my favorites. I just love Colossus, and I have all 3 of his cards. He is always going to be expensive, though he is really powerful, and the cost to bring him out isn't too big either. 2 to bring out an 8/7 on his final level. While Colossus is active, at the end of your turn, each of your characters of level 2 or higher deals 2 damage to your opponent, not 2 damage per Colossus dice. Again, you can't stack most of the time, and he has a lot of that kind of stuff going on. This is one of the ones that go with his burst. If Colossus damages your opponent, return Colossus to the prep area instead of the use pile. I mean, he can really do some damage, but he is pretty expensive, and I do like his dice. The color is kind of steel pearlescent dice again, and I like the red that they used. The next two that we have are Storm and Beast, and these both come in the starter pack, so I'm not going to go over all these cards, though I do have them. For example, when Storm attacks, re-roll each of your opponent's characters, place any of the dice that does not result in a character in your opponent's prep area. So you can knock out a lot of people. You can knock out this whole army by doing this if you want, and she's not that expensive, but her final level is a 3/2, not too strong as well. Now, I'll let you get into more of her cards when you buy the set yourself, but the next one that we're going to do for the X-Men is Beast, and I like her dice, by the way. They are translucent, they're pretty cool, and I like his dice, but again, they're kind of hard to read. When you put the same color palette on one, it might be kind of rough, though you can read it enough. And his is a cheap card. I mean, look, it's 2, but it's only a 2/4 at its last level, though you can have a few of these out there and really wallop your opponent. And he does stuff like, when Beast blocks, spin the blocked character down 1 level. If it is already level 1, knock it out, and then the burst symbol does even more. So Beast is really cool and a good character to have in your team as a small character. So those are the X-Men. Now let's go over the Avengers. Alright, so I'm going to go over the Avengers, but I'm going to go over it fast because this video is running a little longer than I thought. So the first ones that we have here, they come in this set, is Iron Man, and his dice is pretty cool. It's not one of my favorites, but good enough. And it allows the Avengers to really take advantage of being Avengers, you know, or he can have other cards help him out as well. So that's Iron Man. He is a 5/7 at his final level and only a 4 to break out. A big character is up next, and I only have one of his, and this is the God of Thunder, Thor, and he is strong. Like Phoenix, he is an 8/8 and 3 to bring out, though he is pretty pricey on this card here. At the start of each step, Thor gets +4 attack and defense for each opposing fist character in the field. So if you choose right and go against an opponent that has a lot of those, Thor can be incredibly effective. The next one that we have here is Hawkeye. I have a few of his. Spin a character damaged by Hawkeye down 1 level, and he has some pretty cool dice, but again, it's kind of the same color palette on each other. And his final level is a 4/2 and 1 to bring out, though he isn't expensive to buy. Another character that comes in the starter set is the Hulk, and they have 4 cards to start, well, 3 cards to start off with, and he is incredibly strong, just like the other 2 that I show you at 8/8 and 3 to bring out. And he has some decent abilities. While Hulk is active, when either you or the Hulk takes damage, move all Hulk dice from your use pile to the prep area. So Hulk is interesting. The next one we have here is again, it benefits from having Avengers on your side and or sidekicks, the Captain America, and he's pretty cheap, and he is a 5/5 to bring out on his 5 level, his 3rd level, his final level. And this one here, while Captain America is active, your sidekicks get +1 attack and +1 defense. So having this and another card that is the Green Goblin can really make your sidekicks pretty bulky and do a lot of damage to your opponent. So the next one we have here, I don't have the super rare of Black Widow, though I wish I did, though this one is pretty good. At the end of your attack step, spin each character engaged with Black Widow down 1 level. Now, it doesn't seem really effective, though she is only a 2, and she's a 3/3 on her final level, which is pretty good. You can have a whole bunch of Black Widows out there, really messing with your opponent until you get some big characters out. So those are all the Avengers that I have in the set. Now let's go over the non-affiliation characters, and this one has Spider-Man in it. Super exciting. So the first one I'm going to bring up is probably a fan favorite, but I have all 3 of his cards, and this is the Punisher. 4, 5, 6, so it progressively gets more expensive, though his final thing does, when Punisher assigns to attack, he deals 2 damage for each opponent character. Your opponent can prevent this by paying 4 life. I mean, that is pretty rough, and I like these dice here. Kind of remind me of the Venom dice that you're going to see here in a second, though these are really cool ones. The next one here this is probably my favorite dice in this set. I don't know why, I just like the translucent dice, and this is Doctor Strange. He is it's really hard to get 7s out, and he is pretty strong. The strongest defense with the attack that I've shown yet, and this is an 8-9 to bring out. The next non-affiliation character that we have is Spider-Man. Now, everybody's going to want to get Spider-Man, and he comes in the starter set, so you will get him if you buy it. And he's a cheap character, being a 5-5 and only 1 to bring out, which is really, really good. When Spider-Man's assigned to attack, you may pay a fist to give him +1 defense. And there's a lot of stuff like that, just minor things to keep Spider-Man in the game, because, you know, Spider-Man's not going to go down without a fight. And this is Wall Crawler and Tiger, though his dice aren't my favorite. I really like a blue and red color palette when it comes to Spider-Man, though they're not the worst in the world. The next one we have here is Ghost Rider. Now, he can be cheap, as you can see. He can be a 2, and he is a 5-5 to bring out, though it costs 3 to actually bring him into the field. His dice are really cool. They capture Ghost Rider pretty well. The next one we have here is Nova. And Nova really isn't that popular within the universe, though he is a strong character, and being 2 to bring into the field, and he is a 7-7, though his dice are really hard to read. These are my least favorite in the game. The next one we have here is another fan favorite, and one of mine as well, and this is a strong character, Silver Surfer. He is an 8-7, 3 to bring out, and he is pretty expensive, though. So the next one that we have here with non-affiliation, I only have one of him, and this is Nick Fury, Mr. Anger. While Nick Fury is active, you may field Avenger characters for free. So, really good, and he's super cheap. His defense is really good for how cheap he is, too. Is a 2-5, and he costs 1 to bring out. His dice are okay. Again, gray on black, kind of hard to read. The next one we have here is War Machine. I like War Machine. And he's not crazy expensive, and he's pretty powerful, being 2 to bring out on his final level, and 5-6. 5 attack and 6 defense, and I have 2 of his cards. His dice are really, really hard to read. I said Nova was pretty bad, but I'm taking it back. The War Machine dice are the worst, because, I mean, look at that. Gray on gray. Just don't do that. And the next one here we have is Deadpool. Now, everybody loves Deadpool, and if you don't, you will after the movie when it comes out. And he is a pretty cheap character, but has high defense, 3 attack, and 7 defense, and 1 to bring out. I have all 3 of his cards. When Deadpool attacks, you may assign an opposing character to block him. Now, your opponent normally does that, but you can do that with Deadpool, and that's basically how Deadpool works. He's an assassin, and he's going to try to knock your opponent's characters out by your choice. And his dice are cool. I mean, they take the Deadpool symbol and do it well on it. So those are all the unassigned affiliation cards. Now let's go over the villain. Okay, so the first of the villains is one of my favorite, and this is Green Goblin, and I love his dice. It's a great choice to go with, of course, purple and green, and they really captured the Green Goblin on there. And he isn't a crazy strong character, though. He is pretty cheap. He's a 5-5, only 1 to bring out, so that's pretty good. Though this is the only one I have, and this is one of the most used cards in this first set when it first came out. And while Green Goblin is active, your sidekicks get +1 attack and +1 defense, just like the Captain America. So if you have these 2 on your team, you can do a lot of sidekick damage. And so that is Green Goblin. The next one here that I'll show you is my favorite, and this is Venom. Now, there's nothing spectacular about Venom. I just love Venom. When I opened him, I literally passed out.
Oh man, super excited. I can't wait to rip this open. What am I gonna get? What am I gonna get?
Check out these dice. Again, it's kind of like the Punishers, though I don't know, I just like these dice. So that is Venom. The next one we have here is Magneto, and he comes in the set, so you're gonna have a few of him. And Magneto gets +1 attack and +2 attack and +2 defense when engaged with an X-Men character. So that's going to be kind of the theme of Magneto. I like his dice, though. Again, same color palette on the same color. It's just, I don't know, they're okay. And these dice here I like a lot, and these belong to Mystique. Again, it kind of reminds me of Spider-Man. It's a good color palette, and she is going to be copying people, and she is not really strong, though her abilities are really cool. So she is a 1-1 to bring out. Though I'll read this one here. When Mystique is engaged, she copies the dice stats and the card ability of one character that she is engaged with. So, and the burst one here, she also gains +1 attack and +1 defense. So you can do a lot of cool things with Mystique, and she's not really that expensive, though 5 is upwards. The next villain we have here is another Spider-Man villain, and he is pretty powerful. This is Doc Ock. He is an 8/8 again and 3 to bring out. And when blocked, any damage that Doc Ock does in excess of his blocking character's total defense is dealt to the opponent. Again, kind of like a trample, and I play with Doc Ock quite a bit just because of that. Though I wish they would have picked a better yellow. They went with the gold on his dice and makes it a bit hard to read, though these are cool dice. So Doc Ock has a few different personalities there, though I'm only going to go over that one. The last 2 villains that I have here are Loki, and I have all of his cards, though he is really expensive and his attack is terrible. It's a 2 attack and an 8 defense, and it's only 2 to bring out, though his abilities is where Loki really shines, and I'm not going to go over them, but it's basically taking control of people. When fielded, capture an opponent dice of equal or lower level. So that's how the Trickster works, and Loki pretty much works. His dice are pretty cool, actually. I like this. Again, they're translucent and good color palette. The last one that I have here is Doctor Doom, and Doctor Doom is okay character. His defense is spectacular, being at 8, but his attack is only 5, and he's a 3 to bring out. And his dice are okay. I mean, again, you can easily read them. I like that. So those are the villains. There are only 2 more cards that I'm going to show you, and these are the equipment cards that come in this set, and then I'm going to give you my overview and tell you how much I like this game, because you already know that I do. So let's go over those 2 equipments right now. Okay, so here we have them. The first one we have here is, I'm not going to try to pronounce this. My friend knows how to pronounce it perfectly, but this is Thor's hammer. Now, when you give an equipment to a person or a character, you're going to be actually equipping it to that character and doing its effect. So deal 4 damage to all characters other than Thor, yours and the opponent's characters, and the burst is deal 5 damage. The other one here is deal 6 damage to each villain, deal 8 damage to each villain if it's the burst. So that is the hammer of Thor, and the dice are pretty cool. I mean, I like them. I like the gold that they use. And this is Captain America's shield, of course, and this one again is going to help anybody, though. This one says, at the start of your attack phase, choose an energy type. This turn, characters of that type take no damage. I love this equipment. It's one of my favorites, and if I put anything in equipment wise, it's going to be this one here. And the dice are cool. They have the shield on there, and again, they just have energy, and if this symbol comes up, that's when the actual thing goes off. So that is Dice Masters. I tried to show you as much as I possibly could, and as we always do here on GameVine, I'm going to be giving this game a letter grade and or a percentage. First, I want to start with Dice Masters as a whole. I'm going to be giving Dice Masters, I finally get to talk about it, a 98%. And the only thing that keeps it from being 100 is that it is collectible, and some of the components could be a little better, like the cards, and or they could have been stored a little better, because those little packs, sometimes when you get them, they have the dice in them and they'll have dents in them, and I've had a super rare come out that way, which was kind of sad. But the grade for this set, Avengers versus X-Men, I'm going to give a 95%, which is a high, but not quite 98, and it's only because this isn't quite my favorite set. There are other sets that I'm going to show in the future that might get a little higher, though I do like Marvel a lot. I'm a comic book fan. As you can see, I even have my shirt on. And I love, love, love Dice Masters, and have ever since I heard the concept of it. And I've never been one to really dive into a collectible game without doing research, because they are expensive. And let's get into some of the downfalls before I start to talk about some of the good stuff about Dice Masters. The collectability does keep other people from jumping into this game in my game group. Though the theme corresponds with what they like a lot of the time, they just can't throw down a lot of money. Though this one does it in a really nice way, where you can just buy a starter pack, which costs $15 like any other game, but then the packs only cost 99 cents. And you can go out and buy a starter pack and get started with, you know, a smaller game, but you really want to have both players have their own starter deck. But you can also customize this game, which I love about collectible card games. You really can't do that in any other fashion as well as you can do it in this collectible card universe. But nothing in the mechanisms of Dice Master feels added on. It feels as if all this was play tested to the fullest, and everything that happens within the game feels like it belongs. It's not just convoluted with extra rules just to be there. You know, as in Magic, you're making your deck and you're drawing your cards, and it's all in the luck of the draw. This is fashioned off of that same aspect, but of course the first design that Eric and Mike did was Couriers, which I like Couriers, and you are able to buy dice off of certain cards. You have a pool that you can buy from just right in front of you, which isn't just based on the luck of the draw. But in Couriers, you just buy big monsters or little monsters and try to attack. Just attack, attack, attack. But in this one, you can defend with tinier monsters against these big brutes and take all the damage that way, instead of just, you know, having this turn where, okay, can you attack and beat me like in Couriers? This one, you can really set up your strategy, and again, everything is up there. You can see what you want to buy at that point in time. So, like in Magic, if you're not getting the card that you want, you're SOL. But in this game, you can say, okay, this is the strategy that I want to go after, and roll the dice and buy these cards. Now again, it's all luck-based, and you might get bad rolls, though you might get good rolls, and I kind of like that because I'm not the best player when it comes to this game. I've lost quite a bit, though you can mitigate that. You can put cards in there on your team to draw more dice so you don't fall victim to the bad rolls. And with any collectible card game, since you can't put these cards back in the small box that they give you, you do have to improvise. And I find that these things right here are great for holding the dice, because this is the first time that you have to do that. Normally you just have deck boxes that you can put your cards in like this, though you're going to have to go out and buy one of each just to have, you know, storage for them. Though that's a minor quibble. If you get into this game within itself, or any collectible card game, you know that going in. You also can get some of these starter box, which is has inserts where you can hold the dice, and it's really nice, and I'll go over those a little later, though keep that in mind. If you get into this game, you're going to want to have to go out and buy some storage. So that was Dice Masters Avengers vs. X-Men, and thank you so much for watching today's review. I hope it was insightful. I know I didn't go over all the rules in the other video and or all the cards, though I'm just trying to get the word of mouth out about this game, because at this point in time, it is one of my favorite games of all time. It's at least within the top 5, and I can say that with confidence, if not even higher than that. So WizKids hit it out of the park with Dice Masters for me, and until the next time that I see you, have a great rest of your day and a great time with all that you play. I've been Dave. You heard it here on the Game Vine. I'm out.